Hello and welcome to Rogers Television production of the 2015 federal election debate here from the Municipal Building Council Chambers in Strathroy, Caradoc. I'm your host, Chris Soares. Thanks for joining us. Over the next hour, we're going to meet and we're going to listen to 4 candidates coming up in the October 19th federal election. I'd like to introduce you to our panel for the next hour. From left to right, we have representing the NDP, we have Rex Isaac. Representing the Progressive Conservatives, we have incumbent Bev Shipley. Representing the Green Party, we have Jim Johnston. And representing the Liberal Party, we have Ken Filson. And thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. A quick little rundown on how this is going to work. Each candidate is going to be allowed to give an opening and closing statement. They will be 2 minutes each in duration. And then I will be asking the candidates some questions. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer, and each question will be allowed 3 rebuttals by any candidate. And if we do have a rebuttal, they will be 30 seconds in duration. So let's get right to it with opening remarks, and we will start with candidate for the NDP party, Rex Isaac.
Oh, thank you. Bonjour, bonjour, hello. I want to thank you for listening in, and I want to introduce myself. My name is Rex Isaac, and I'm your federal candidate for Lambton-Kent-Middlesex. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I learned recently that I'm the only candidate in all of southwestern Ontario who happens to be First Nations. So that's a pretty distinct honor, and that's out of any party. But I'm also here to promote all Canadians. So with that, the NDP has a very strong platform which is aimed directly at all Canadians in their interests, whether you're the strong middle working class who are struggling and trying to make ends meet, or you're the most vulnerable and the seniors. We have a platform that addresses all those issues, and that'll be coming out in this debate that we have here. I feel very confident in, after having 150 years of Liberal and Conservative governments, that Canadians really want change. And that change, the only change that we have, the true change that we have, the only choice that we have is an NDP government. So I hope that you will help me in making that a reality. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you. Now to candidate for the Progressive Conservative Party, Bev Shipley.
Hi, I'm Bev Shipley, and for the past 9.5 years, I've had the privilege to serve as your Conservative Member of Parliament for Lambton-Kent-Middlesex. The opposition parties in this election will talk about change and the need for it. They are wrong. This election is not about change, it's actually about leadership. Proven leadership for a strong Canada. The kind of leadership that only someone with Stephen Harper's experience and, yes, record of achievement can provide and brought stability to Canada. The Canadian economy is the envy of the world. Our standing on the world stage has never been higher. We've been principled and true to our Canadian values. Under the strong leadership of our Prime Minister, Canada is stronger, safer, and more united than ever. The opposition parties in this election will say that it needs to change. So what does that actually mean? Well, they say they'll take away the programs that are benefiting families and our seniors, like the universal child care benefit, pension splitting, income splitting, and the tax-free savings accounts. And yes, they'll bring back the long gun registry. They're determined to take us back to large governments, big spending. At a time of global economic uncertainty, they have plans of billions of dollars in new and reckless spending. They plan to take vast amount of those dollars out of your pocket and put it into theirs. It will cost jobs and create big deficits which put our social programs at risk. These risky schemes don't work. They don't work in other countries, and they won't work in Canada. Friends, this cannot happen. On October the 19th, Canadians have one choice: Bev Shipley, our Conservative team, and the proven leadership of Stephen Harper. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to our candidate for the Green Party, Jim Johnston.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jim Johnston. I'm with the Green Party. I've had 9.5 years of running against Bev Shipley, and very proud of that. The Green Party, I believe, has a very balanced platform, fiscally responsible. It takes care of issues that are important to Canadians in terms of economic development, community development, and ensuring that we have sustainable economy that will last into the future. I believe that in Lambton-Kent-Middlesex, this election is really about one thing. I think that Bev's a great person. I think he has dedicated his entire life to public service, and I appreciate that. But the problem we have here is if you vote for Bev Shipley, you're voting for Stephen Harper, and you're endorsing the way that the government has treated Canadians for the last 9.5 years. This is the only government in the history of Canada to be held in contempt of Parliament. It is the only government that has had a sitting MP go to jail. I don't think any of us believe all the stories that have gone on around the Duffy affair. If I were to give you an allegory of training a puppy, you reward them when they do well, and when they don't do well, you don't reward them. Voting for the Conservative Party endorses their view of Canadians that it's okay to treat us like that. Canadians deserve better. We all deserve better. So I would ask you to put aside the team jersey in this election and consider what's important in terms of creating a strong, sustainable future for Canada. I think you'll find that the Green Party platform at greenparty.ca covers off everything that you might need in that picture. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to our candidate in the Liberal Party, Ken Filson.
Hi, I'm Ken Filson, and it's an honor and a privilege for me to have this opportunity to speak with you today. I want to be your member of Parliament because I believe that rural, small-town, southwestern Ontario is a great place to live and to raise your family. I believe that so much that 23 years ago, my wife Karen and I, we quit good-paying jobs in Cobourg, Ontario, to move home to the Denfield and Lucan area, where we grew up, where we were raised, and where we wanted to raise our family. You see, I believe in the people of Lambton-Kent-Middlesex. I believe in the farmers, I believe in the entrepreneurs, the business people, and I believe in the communities that you have built. I believe in you. I share your values of hope, generosity, hard work, honesty, and fairness. I will respect your views and ensure that your issues are heard in Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have some select questions for the candidates for the next hour. Do have some federally based questions, but the majority of them based on the riding because they are representing or hope to represent the riding of Lambton-Kent-Middlesex. And each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question with a cap of 3 rebuttals per question if necessary. So we'll start with the question number 1 to be answered first by Rex Isaac from the NDP party. What do you feel as far as with the riding of Lambton-Kent-Middlesex are going wells and what are not going wells within the riding? Time starts now.
Well, the things that are going well far are outshadowed by the things that are not going well. We have too many people who are desperately unemployed, who are seeking work. I'm being told 2 of our biggest ridings, 2 of our biggest towns, our cities, Strathroy and Wellsburg, are both now becoming community seniors' homes. And to me, that's disturbing because I grew up in the Wellsburg area. I know that there's a proud heritage of manufacturing. You know, there's economics that have happened, whether it's Libby's or Waltech, that were worldwide known companies that many people were proud to have been a part of. And all that is gone now. We need to change things around. We need to have a government and a leadership that believes in the people and is going to support the people, and it's going to build the infrastructure to create and turn this economy around.
Thank you. Bev Shipley.
Thank you very, and a great question. And when you look at the of Lambton-Kent-Middlesex, It clearly is very much a rural and small business municipality and riding. Actually, the unemployment in Strathroy and in Lambton-Kent-Middlesex is at one of its lowest times. We've got businesses that are coming back in. You talk up in Wallaceburg or you talk in Strathroy-Caradoc. One of the concerns is actually that we got to work at is when I was driving by and talking to some of the business people in the manufacturing area, is to get the skilled tradespeople that they need. And we're continuing to help through the post-secondary education with skilled trades and training programs to make sure that our businesses can not only stay here, but want to grow. I want to say thank you to the Strathroy Council and to this region for the work that they've done in terms of being a great partner in some of the funding programs that we've been able to come along with and come alongside with them, whether it's for seniors or whether it's for the organizations like the Legion, which is a key component in this riding, and also for the small businesses that we've been able to saddle up with them in comparison. So I just want to just give that as an opportunity. This is about small business, and small businesses are about families. Families are about working with these companies, and they're the ones that hire the people in this riding. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you at home, that's the first time you heard the bell. That signifies the end of each candidate's ability to speak. Let's go to the Green Party's Jim Johnston.
Thank you very much, Chris. There's a thing that happens in life. What you look at, what you focus on grows. And for many of us, what we see going on in Lambton-Kent-Middlesex is not very pretty. It has made for difficult choices. Most of us, many of us, are commuting outside of the riding in order to work. So I'd like to spend the rest of my few seconds to talk about some of the tremendously positive things that are happening. I would agree with Bev Shipley on this particular issue, that small business and innovation and creativity is the key to the success of this riding. The Green Party has proposed a Council of Governments, which is a coordinated effort between federal, provincial, and municipal governments to try to put in place local economic plans which build on the strengths of that community. We need to develop an economy which is based on our incredibly knowledgeable workforce, which is our competitive advantage globally. We can't continue to take a risk of betting the whole farm on resource extraction in Canada. So it's very important that we build small business locally and strong communities.
Thank you. Ken Filson from the Liberal Party.
Thank you. Lambton-Kent-Middlesex has a great location. It has great people in the workforce, in council, in business, and it has great potential. What we haven't been able to do in Lambton-Kent-Middlesex is realize that potential. The Liberal Party of Canada will invest $60 billion over the next 10 years in infrastructure. That infrastructure will create jobs and will help solve the deficit that we have in infrastructure spending. Lambton-Kent-Middlesex has more roads and bridges per capita than anywhere in Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver, and we're falling behind on the repairs and maintenance so that we can move our goods where they need to be and create those and support those businesses who are working hard in Lambton-Kent-Middlesex.
Thank you. We have one rebuttal right now. Bev Shipley for 30 seconds. Time starts now.
Thank you. I just want to say that in terms of the infrastructure, I was involved in municipal government for 20 years, and until we got elected, there was really actually very little federal funding. We now have some of the largest funding, $75 million over 10 years. The infrastructure lifetime has moved on our infrastructure from 15.4 years to 13.4 years. That's because we've invested deeply in the infrastructure with the provinces and the municipalities.
Thank you. Moving on to question number 2, which will be answered first by Progressive Conservative candidate Bev Shipley. Education, more importantly, employment relations has been and may continue to be a hot-button topic in the province of Ontario. Based on the fact that you probably cannot assist as much as your MPP counterparts, do you think the federal level of government should be stepping in more when work unrest comes to the forefront in any province? And we'll start with Bev Shipley. Time starts now.
As we know, the education is very much a responsibility of the provinces, and yet the federal government takes a lot of responsibility in some of those of post-secondary education. We put in over $10 billion per year in terms of how are we going to get our young people and those people that need to be retrained, how do we get them to make sure they have jobs when they graduate? We've put those sorts of dollars into skilled trades and training. As I mentioned, we have businesses that are looking for skilled trades, and so when we bring in people, whether they're immigrants but we really want to get our own students in place so that so that they can have these jobs. We've introduced an apprentice tax credit. We've introduced repayment back for some of the tools that they need so that they can actually get their jobs. And so the post-secondary part is really critical, because there's nothing worse to see having a young child go through education, come out with a degree or a diploma, and then when you ask them, are there any jobs? Well, not in that area. And so we want to try to focus our young people into areas where there are jobs so that when they graduate, they actually have a sustainable job to go to.
Thank you. Green Party's Jim Johnston. Time starts now.
Thanks, Chris. As you may or may not know, I'm a professor at Fanshawe College, and we train people for the workforce. That's what we do. We have about an 85% placement rate from our graduates, and I believe that the opportunities are there for people who are willing to learn. Education is critically important, but it's terribly expensive, and I believe that we need to do more in terms of assisting students with that financial burden. Community colleges are focused on determining what the local needs are for workforce requirements. They have innumerable community advisory committees that inform the college about what kinds of training programs are necessary. And there's been rapid growth in the community college sector now that community colleges are able to grant degrees. So I think that we're moving forward on this, but we need to again remember that the future of Canada needs to be based on an educated workforce that can be innovative and work on a global business model based on internet solutions and based on an economy which reaches around the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Filson. Time starts now.
The Liberal government will invest in programs to help young Canadians in a sustainable, provide sustainable and meaningful employment. Sorry. The Conservative government, when they came to power, cut the Canada Summer Jobs program by 20,000 jobs. Yet, youth unemployment runs twice the rate of the general population. That's not acceptable, and we need to make a change. I have 2 daughters at university. I know the costs of those programs. And we need our youth to obtain post-secondary training, whether that's in university or colleges or through trades. But we have to make it more available and reasonably priced. The Liberal Party will sit down with our provincial counterparts and talk out a plan and work on a plan. That's what's been missing in a lot of areas, is the leadership from our Prime Minister to sit down with the provinces and work out national solutions to our problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Rex Isaac.
Thank you. This is one of the things that I think that is a major issue in this current government that we have, is just a one-sided, one-direction lead towards an economy. I, myself, am a union steam fitter. I have been since 1995. And it is a good living, or at least it was prior to 9/11. But what's happening now is that students are facing graduation with no hope of jobs that were present only 20 years ago when I first got out of my education. There's precarious part-time work, contract work with no security. Also, student loans, I think it's 6 months after you graduate, the interest kicks in. Well, the government is already making the money on the tuition and the books and everything else like that, and then they're going to kick somebody when they're down and charge them interest on top of it. And if you cannot secure a full-time job, especially in your field of study, it makes it very difficult and it puts unnecessary stress on all of our students and all our young people who are trying to create families and to start out their lives and become proud Canadians like many of us were fortunate enough to be and to have a job. But if you have a job nowadays, you have best hold on to it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one rebuttal. Jim Johnston, 30 seconds.
Thank you, Chris. I just wanted to point out that this is one of many problems in Canada which requires coordination between provincial, municipal, and federal governments. And we're living in an environment now where the federal government has been quite antagonistic towards Ontario and Alberta, which are the two largest generators of economic growth in the country. It is almost beyond belief that we're trying to put together a comprehensive industrial development policy without engaging those two provinces.
Thank you. To question number 3, which will be answered first by Jim Johnston, and ironically, a couple of candidate comments touched on jobs in the previous question. So question number 3, if elected, how do you plan on bringing more jobs to Lambton-Kent-Middlesex and minimizing the jobless rate as much as possible? And we'll start with the Green Party's Jim Johnston. Time starts now.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. The Green Party has a comprehensive policy for the development of a sustainable economy that's built on the notion of having a strong community as well. As I mentioned before, we would work with the municipalities and with the provincial government to develop local development plans that take advantage of our workforce and our resource base. We would like to be able to create communities where you can live and work in the same place, and then we can cut down on all the commuting that we have to do. It might be surprising to note that we don't have, to the best of my knowledge, a single inch of public transit in this riding. And that makes it difficult for people who can't drive or can't get around to be able to be fully engaged in the employment situation. So I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'm saying that the plan to produce the answers involves cooperation and conciliation and consultation. And that's what we would do as a Green government.
Thank you. To Ken Filson.
The Liberal Party infrastructure program that I mentioned previously will flow that money through the provinces to the municipalities directly. The municipalities themselves will have stable, reliable, long-term financing. There won't be any more fancy checks and there won't be any more presentations from MPs. They can take that funds and use it to their priorities as best fits their municipality. We have to put more faith in our local municipalities because they understand what they're facing and what they're up against. And that's what we will do. The other thing to create jobs is we'll cut taxes to the middle class by $3 billion. Now we're going to do that by asking 1% of the population, the richest, the wealthiest, to pay a little bit more. When the middle class gets a raise, they're going to spend it. They're behind. They need to have a raise, and we're going to give it to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Rex Isaac.
Once I'm elected as your MP, one of the things that Tom Mulcair and our party has been very well committed to is working with local municipalities, as well as to create infrastructure and to bring jobs forward. But the thing is, the difference is that governments are not supposed to be micromanaging. Working with a government or another government is much more effective than a top-down government who's telling you, look, we have these existing programs and this is how they're going to work and you're going to implement them no matter what. This is why I'm asking you, after 150 years of liberal and conservative governments, that your only true option for change is voting your first new Democratic Party government. And I will hope that you will help me to bring that forward. We have many options and opportunities to bring forward, and it'll be released as Tom Mulcair visits each area within Canada, and you'll see as how that plan is going to be unfolding. We don't want to release everything that we're have on our platform, because you can see already, many of our opponents are already starting to begin to utilize some of our strengths in our program to their advantage. So look forward to those. Thank you.
Thank you. Bev Shipley.
Actually, that's one of the key things this election's about is leadership, the economy, and the economy is all about jobs. In Canada, we've made the step that when other countries were failing to become financially secure, we lowered our taxes to the lowest in 50 years, not only personal, but for businesses. We just lowered the small business tax. It will come down from 11 to 9%. We've taken the corporate tax from 22.5% to 15%. What's that about? It's about giving our businesses an opportunity to survive and be economically strong. In Canada, governments shouldn't be the ones creating the jobs. So what we've done is create an environment so that businesses can succeed. Lambton-Kent-Middlesex is part of that 1.2 million net new jobs since the depth of the recession. We've actually worked really close with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, talking about municipalities because they are the local. I was involved for 20 years with it. We've given them the gas tax refund plus a GST rebate. So for Strathroy Caradoc, that's about $1 million a year that they have the flexibility for their infrastructure projects. And what that does is help our small businesses. When you create a strong infrastructure, then it gives the opportunity for our small businesses not only to be successful nationally, but also internationally.
Thank you. Question number 4 will be answered first by Ken Filson, a federal question. There have been talks over the last year, and some most recently as since the campaign has started, about a potential coalition government. A couple of parties being mentioned, possibly the Liberal Party and the NDP, perhaps moving forward. Leaving the parties aside, can a coalition government work in Canada? Why or why not? And we'll start with Ken Filson.
In the current climate, I don't believe a coalition government can work or really should work. Until such time as we change the voting system that we have now and eliminate first past the post, which is the policy of the Liberal government. We will eliminate first past the post if we form government. Coalitions work fine when you're dealing with a number of parties where no one can really form anything close to a majority government. Justin Trudeau's been very clear, we will not form a coalition with either party, but we will work individually with whatever party forms the government on the plans that work for the middle class. Thank you.
Thank you. Rex Isaac.
Yes, there's absolutely no talk whatsoever of the NDP forming a coalition at this point, because, I don't know, there's plenty of rumors out there on social media and other things out there that are trying to say otherwise, but we're in election right now, and what we're focused on is winning this government. Obviously, Canadians are fearful of having a majority government because of the way that the past government has been. The laws that have came down with no oversight, the way that the laws have been ramrodded through the system, not going through the proper steps, not going through the proper channels, not having the proper oversight, with little to no revision, bills being passed in maybe a week tops, when in the past they used to take several months of deliberations, and then sometimes they get sent back and for review. So obviously Canadians are fearful of that for any majority government. But the thing is that we need to have strength in ourselves and belief, and that's why I hope that you will believe in myself as a candidate and as well as with the NDP. Thank you.
Thank you. Bev Shipley.
Thank you, Chris. Interesting question. I want you to think around the world, those countries that have coalition governments and how successful they are. Most of those, many of those governments right now are the ones that are in financial crisis. Governments, first past the post is what Canada has been built on. That's where you actually elect a government and the members to represent it. Coalitions actually, and when they talk about it, it's interesting now that during the election, neither the Liberals or the NDP want to say that they had talked about it. But I can tell you before the election started that both of you, in fact, the NDP were chasing the Liberals to see if they would be able to sit down and form one. So we know that actually that is in their back pocket. But what it does, they don't talk about how, because coalitions actually give more power to the National Party, because what you end up doing is different scenarios, but at some point in time, the National Party will actually be appointing, likely, some members that would sit in their caucus. And so, as a Conservative Party and as Canadians, most provinces have rejected, most governments, and even the Liberal government up until right now, where they're talking that they might consider it, have always said, first past the post. That's how democracy works, the true democracy in terms of electing your member of Parliament, and that's what the Conservative government of Canada will support.
Thank you. Jim Johnston.
Thank you, Chris. What a great question. Let me summarize what everyone else here has said. It's my way or the highway. And that's where we got. That's why we have the government we have. That's why we have the legislation we have. It turns into a vicious fight every time. There's no need for it. I would recommend that you do what Bev suggested, which is look into the coalition governments around the world. You'll find that your interpretation of the conclusion will be quite different than what Bev suggests, though. There are coalition governments in Germany, in Finland, in Sweden, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Israel. These are all vibrant, growing economies. They're growing much faster than the Canadian economy, which, by the way, on the World Bank database is number 123 out of 200 countries. So it's nowhere near the top, my friends. Coalitions can work. They should work because it causes people to compromise. Compromise is what created Confederation. Compromise is what creates the ability to solve large problems over a long period of time, because we have taken into account all of the considerations which are necessary to solve those systemic problems. I think that proportional representation will help get us there.
Thank you. We do have a couple of rebuttals right now. The first one for 30 seconds to Ken Filson.
Yeah. Well, let's understand the Westminster system that we operate in. The Westminster system is a relic. It's the first past the post system in Great Britain and Canada. New Zealand, Australia moved away from the first past the post system and the Westminster model. So, and can coalition governments work? Well, let's look at the UK. David Cameron was Prime Minister in a coalition government. It can work. We will work with each party individually to pass good legislation.
Thank you. Second rebuttal to Rex Isaac.
The NDP government is committed to working with Canadians. They're also committed to working in healthy relationships with strong governments who support Canadians. However, the only existing coalition that we're currently aware of is the coalition between the Liberals and the Conservatives on Bill C-51. This is a bill that has attacked the Constitution at its very core, and it's something that we need to be addressing seriously.
Thank you. Question number 5 to be answered first by Rex Isaac. Simply, can the federal budget, in your opinion, be balanced? What can your party do to help achieve that goal? And we'll start with Rex Isaac.
Absolutely, the federal budget can be balanced. Obviously, it can't be balanced by a Conservative government because they've had 8 or 10 cracks at it so far and have failed to do so. But however, the NDP are very prudent spenders, and they've proven that time and time again. Our founder, Tommy Douglas, had not only created modern healthcare as what we know today, but he balanced 17 consecutive budgets. We've had an excellent reputation far beyond any other party out there as far as balancing budgets. And we will continue to do so with Donald Mulcair as our leader and with NDP as your new government for the federal election. Thank you.
Thank you. Bev Shipley.
Well, actually, I guess the words speak for the action that's happened. When we got elected in 2006, excuse me, we had surpluses. And so we paid down the national debt by $40 billion. Went into the worst recession since the Great Depression of the 30s. At that time, we were in a minority government, and what we did is we spent money in terms of infrastructure to help stimulate the economy across the country. We did that. We created a deficit. We said at the end of the recession that we would then start to work that deficit down and pay it off. We said we would do that by 2015, and we did. 2015 budget, actually we had a surplus of $1.2 billion, came out just the last couple of weeks, that actually the economy is stronger than was anticipated. That surplus now is $5 billion. To my NDP cohort, I'm just wondering, because now they've got $35 billion already spent, and they have no idea where they're going to get the money from unless they tax you to death for it. And then the Liberals, I'm sort of wondering where they're going to come from, but they've always talked about a carbon tax that's going to hit, and same with the NDP, everything that you buy. So if you're going to put a carbon tax on everything that you buy, who's it going to hurt the most? I would suggest the middle and the low income people. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Johnston.
Thank you, Chris. It's an interesting thing, the way the books in the government work. In 2009, the government went into deficit mode and borrowed $50 billion, which has not been repaid. Part of that money went to buying shares in General Motors, because General Motors was in trouble as a consequence of the breakdown in the US subprime market. This year, they sold those shares in General Motors, and they brought that not back to the deficit. They didn't pay back the money they'd borrowed to buy them, but they called it revenue. And so, oh my goodness, we have a $5 billion surplus. Is there anybody in this room who thinks that this budget is balanced by March of 2016? You can't see, but I'll tell you, no one's hand went up in this room, okay? So I think the issue is credibility. Do we believe what's really going on with the government? And I can't imagine that we've seen the kind of transparency and accountability which was promised to us, which is why I believe it is time to send the Conservative Party to the penalty box as a timeout, and to have somebody else go into the government and find out what the numbers actually are, because I don't believe anything that I hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Filson.
At this time, we have an opportunity. We're in a recession. We're the only G7 country in recession, and that's by the definition in the Conservatives' own Balanced Budget Act. We have historically low interest rates, lower than they've ever been. We need jobs. Our economy is stagnant. That's why the Liberal government will invest in infrastructure. And to do that, we will run up to a $10 billion deficit. And we will do that to stimulate the economy and create jobs. That's prudent when you're in a situation that we are in today. I'd just like to say, thank goodness Paul Martin was around to create the advantages and the economic criteria that created the surpluses that we handed off to the Conservative government. The Liberals paid down the debt by $90 billion. The Conservatives increased it by $150 billion. That's 190 when you count the $40 billion they paid back at the beginning. That's too much. We will run deficits, and then we will pull ourselves out when the economy pulls itself out. That's prudent at this time, and that's what we'll do.
Thank you. We do have a rebuttal. Bev Shipley for 30 seconds.
Paul Martin, it was sort of interesting at the time they'd built this large EI fund in which they took $50 billion out of it to help balance their budget. Canada's the only one with a AAA credit rating. We've now got 1.3 million net new jobs. We have 12,000 new jobs in July. I don't think there's a country around, quite honestly, that can meet that sort of a record.
Thank you. We have a second rebuttal. Jim Johnston, go ahead for 30.
I teach, one of the things I teach is macroeconomic policy. And you always have to be careful when you listen to numbers. You talk about net new jobs, but what's the unemployment rate? Because there's been population growth over that same period of time. And you'll find that, in fact, the unemployment rate has gone up. So you gotta be careful what you listen to with the statistics. So as I say, be careful what you listen to. Do your research, friends.
Thank you. Question number 6 will be answered first by Bev Shipley. Are services for the older population a focus of your party? And if so, what areas will you focus on for the seniors of Lambton-Kent-Middlesex? We'll start with Bev Shipley.
Thank you. I think one of the things that we've been, I mean, they're the foundation of our country, our seniors. We've brought in pension income splitting for seniors. The low tax rate. We've taken some 400,000 low-income seniors off of the tax roll. We've now got the lowest rate of poverty or low income in seniors in our history. For those that have been having the ability to have RSPs, we've raised that amount or the age from 69 to 71. We've brought in a number of programs, and Strathroy Town has been able to tap into some of those with the enabling programs and the New Horizons for our seniors, and those are to help keep them active, help keep them in the community. And it's sort of interesting, the seniors in poverty, and that's what has come up a number of times. In the 70s, in Canada it was 37%. 2010 was 6.7%. 2014, 5.3%. Now I know Jim will say those numbers maybe are, I don't know if they're accurate or not, but I can tell you that's a pretty significant trend. And we're going to continue to work with our partners and with our seniors so that we make sure that they have a longer lifestyle and one that they enjoy living in.
Thank you. Jim Johnston, please.
Thank you. I'm sure your numbers were good, Beth. On that one. The Green Party has 2 initiatives that address the needs of seniors. One is a guaranteed livable income, which ensures that the other 5.4% will be out of poverty as well. We've also have a national pharmacare plan, which will pay for prescription drugs for all Canadians. This is part of a fully costed federal budget, which has been reviewed by Kevin Page, the former parliamentary budget officer. The Conservatives did not renew his appointment because apparently he asked some questions they didn't want to answer. But we opened the books for him, and he has indicated that this is a feasible approach and will not result in any deficit financing. So seniors are an important part of a community, and we need more connection. We need to have people retiring and in nursing homes in the communities that they grew up in so that they're close to their families. I think that's extremely important, and we want to build strong communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Filson.
The Liberal Party will work with the provinces to invest in seniors. We do need seniors to be taken care of. They have earned it. I agree. But we need to take care of them through programs such as home care. We need to reduce the cost of the pharmaceuticals that some of them are forced to use. We need solutions for the health costs that come with aging. The way to do that is to sit down with the provinces and work out the best solutions to achieve those goals. And a Liberal government will do just that. I'd like to correct something that's been said on this panel and seems to be repeated continuously whenever a Conservative speaks. And that's the fact that our government will somehow reduce and eliminate pension splitting for seniors. That is not going to happen. the Liberal Party will not eliminate pension splitting for seniors. And I'd like that to get back to the Conservative government and the Conservative HQ so that they can correct everything that they've been saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Rex Isaac.
Thank you. In my culture, we don't refer to the people who have aged as seniors. We refer to them as elders. And they're highly respected in our culture. Not because they're the most educated and they're the most prominent and people at the top of the ladder, but because they've lived life. And those things that they've learned in life are very valuable to us. And so it's an honor for me to speak to all of our seniors because to me, those lessons that I learned from them are more than anything else. Tom Care has committed to increasing, more so than the recent raise that many seniors have told me of the dollar that they received most recently, but Tom Care is talking about raising the OIS, a significant level, so that seniors are raised out of poverty. I don't know if the figures are true about 5 or 5.4 or whatever the percentage is, but those percentages always represent individual people. And I think that's something that gets lost in government and gets lost in a lot of these discussions. One person that is affected, you, the person that's probably watching this, can feel that and can understand that. And so when we're telling you that we want to increase your supplement, your OIS, and to make your life more livable, that's coming from the heart, and that's coming from the NDP. Thank you.
Thank you. I haven't heard it very often, but time flies when you're talking politics. I'm not quite sure if that's correct or not, but we've come to this stage in the hour where it's time for closing remarks. We will go in reverse order of our opening remarks, 2 minutes each per candidate, and we will start with Liberal candidate Ken Filson.
I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank Rogers and Chris for the job they've done in putting this together. You've had a lot of information in the past hour, but it's important to note that only the Liberal Party is offering real change. That's change that is workable, is fair, and is honest. We will create jobs by investing in infrastructure now, while interest rates are at historic lows. We'll cut taxes for the middle class by asking the wealthiest of us to pay a little bit more. We'll introduce a Canada Child benefit that will stop sending checks to millionaires and send them where the money is needed, to the hardworking families struggling to raise their families. 9 out of 10 families will receive more money. It'll be tax-free, and it'll lift 315,000 children out of poverty. Justin Trudeau has built a strong team to support him. The Liberal Party has a strong plan to create jobs, grow the economy, and strengthen the middle class. We will also rebuild the social covenant that we owe to our veterans. We'll unmuzzle the scientists and implement over 30 initiatives to restore our democracy. I believe in Lambton-Kent-Middlesex. I believe in you. I believe together we can do better. Canada can be better. With your help and your vote, we can make it happen. On October 19th, vote Liberal, vote Ken Filson. Thank you.
Thank you. To the Green Party candidate, Jim Johnston.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to everyone today. Thank you, my fellow candidates. It's been a very interesting discussion. I do want to tell you about one thing that I can do that the other people at this table cannot do. When I'm elected as the MP for Lambton-Kent-Middlesex, it is my job to represent the people, all of the people, not just the people who voted for me, but everyone in Lambton-Kent-Middlesex. Every other person at this table will be required to vote for the legislation that their party supports. And Green MPs are free to vote for those things which their constituents want. And that's the way it should be in representative government. the truth is that if we keep voting the way we've always voted, we're going to continue to get the same results that we've always had. So it is time to think differently. It's time to think out of the box. I would ask you to send the Conservative Party to the penalty box, have a hard look at the other parties, especially the Greens, because I think we can do a fantastic job for you. We'd like a chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Progressive Conservative candidate Bev Shipley.
I want to thank Rogers Cable TV and obviously you too, Chris, for hosting this event. In 2011, our party made 107 commitments to Canadians. You honored us with a strong majority government at that time. We've kept 106 of those commitments. We balanced the budget. Our federal taxes are the lowest in 50 years. Friends, these are not just personal taxes, but also business taxes. Our investments in families and seniors and veterans and to our provinces have never been higher. They are at record levels. Canada's middle class is the wealthiest in the world. More Canadians are working today than any time in history. Our legislation has made families, our homes, and our communities safer. Our standing in the world has never been higher. Canada was just recognized internationally as the most reputable and admired country in the world. And our Prime Minister Harper was just nominated as Statesman of the Year. So folks, Canadians do have a choice between the sound and proven leadership of our Prime Minister Stephen Harper or the high-risk alternatives that are quite honestly offered by both of the opposition or all of the opposition parties. And friends, their plans aren't working around the world and they won't work here. So there's one clear choice for Canadians, and it's the Conservative Party of Canada. And so I, Bev Shipley, am asking again for your support to re-elect me October the 19th to represent you in this great riding of Lambton-Kent-Middlesex. Thank you.
Thank you. NDP candidate Rex Isaac.
Well, as I stated earlier, this is that after 150 years of Liberal and Conservative governments, your only real opportunity for true change is with an NDP government. And I'm hoping that you will help me to help you to elect Canada's first NDP government. We've heard a lot of information here. It's going to take some time to soak in. But I hope when you look at me, you'll realize that I'm a representative for you. I am very committed in my communities to be able to represent the people that are there. My vote is not my vote. My vote is your vote. One of the messages that have come loud and clear from the NDP is let's remove the politics of fear and division and replace it with the politics of hope and optimism. I hope to bring that forward, and I hope that you will see that true as well. The NDP is all about grassroots communities and community people. We represent the working people, we represent the elders, we represent the youth, we represent Canadians. And I want to help represent you so that you have a voice in Ottawa, and not just a voice, but that you're heard. Thank you. Miigwech. Merci.
Thank you. And thank you to all the candidates for taking time out of your campaign to join us here for the last hour. Good luck in the rest of your campaign, and good luck, obviously, on election night, October 19th. For those of you at home, thanks for joining us over the last hour. Do your part. Get out to the voting areas and vote on October 19th. That way you have full reason to question your representative whenever you'd like. If you don't vote, you really don't have the right to do so. For Aaron Harwood behind the cameras, I'm Chris Soares. We'll see you October 19th out at the voting stations. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.